Peter, you might be the first person on this planet that has ever shut me up for this long. Good old Heraclitus, I tell you, that wild and crazy guy.
If I came to you and I gave you $10,000 for 20% of the company,
deal. Yeah. So, is that a verbal?
Younger than us, sorry to say, Joseph.
What, younger than 20?
Joe, we're just trying to help you because clearly you've lost control of the conversation.
You know what? With all due respect, I never had control of the situation. Doesn't mean I'm gone. What doesn't kill me makes you stronger.
Look at you. You are insane.
How did I do that?
You're insane.
Well, hello, everybody. Hello from the Sci Club studio in London. My name is Linktree / Juice. Just kidding. My name is Joseph Jaffe. I am your host today for what is one of the highlights of my week, which is the community episode, where I tap into now 204 previous guests and I select 5 of the best. In this case, a very special health, fitness, wellness themed episode. My 5 guests may not even talk about that, but they all have that in common. And I just want to say I have no control of these people. So in the green room, in the preamble, it was evident that this is going to be one hell of a show. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. Well, today is International Darwin Day. You know, I'm not embarrassed to tell you that I have a bit of a man crush on that Chuck Darwin. It is not the strongest of species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It is the one that is the most adaptable to change, and being a really instrumental Galapagosian explorer that has informed and influenced and inspired my life. Michael Brent Kaiser is here, and he says, always looking forward to your Friday shows, especially your best of the week montage. Well, thank you very much. Very, very happy to have you. Well, let's get on with the show. Today, you are going to hear from 5 of the best, 5 people that are insanely, physically inspiring to me, the things that they have achieved and continue to achieve. They're just normal people, except for the Norse god that is Levy and Odden. But other than that, they're normal people that have done extraordinary things in their personal lives and professional lives. But we'll get back to them soon. Let's just talk about our guests next week. I always give you a little bit of a sneak preview. 2 of our guests next week, Lodro Rinsler and Mark Schaefer, are returning guests. They have new books, and it means a lot to me when a guest comes back, because obviously it means that I treated them well and their experience on CoronaTV was worth coming back for. We are going to be doing the after show exclusively on Clubhouse on Thursday, so that should be fun. In fact, speaking of which, I'm going to be doing 4 rooms on Clubhouse next week. On Monday, brands on Clubhouse. On Tuesday, pivoting, the reinvention of brands, careers, and life. It will be the 4th week running now. I'm trying to do those rooms consistently, same time, same place every week. On Wednesday, a similar commitment with the startup community. We're talking about balancing mission and profit. And then, of course, Thursday with Mark Schaefer. Let's do some birthdays just very quickly. Anthony Michelle, Mark Mursky, Eric Weber. Happy birthday to you. Kevin Swanepoel. And then on LinkedIn, there's Gary Smith, Leon Shirk, Scott Beal. And I think that is pretty much it when it comes to the preamble. We are ready to get on with the show. So let's bring on our first guest, Mr. David/Dave Rendall. Welcome back to the show. How are you?
Doing fantastic.
Well, you know what? I'm going to be embarrassing all 5 of you. So first of all, I do love that post that you put up, which is, kind of calling it like it is. I mean, he's not really a GOAT until he's done at least 1 marathon, Tom Brady. But you, David Rendall, what the hell did you just achieve? Tell us a little bit about this small little, is it 55 days, 55 hours?
55 hours. So Badwater did a virtual race. So Badwater is the one that starts in Death Valley and goes up Mount Whitney, 135 miles in the middle of July. So they combined their 3 races. So Badwater 135, Salton Sea, which is 81 miles, and then Badwater Cape Fear, which I've done before here in North Carolina, which is 51 miles. That adds up to 267. So you had 31 days to do that, which is 8.6 miles a day. And so I ended up doing it in about 25 days. Took me about 55 hours over those 25 days.
Incredible. And because you are a freak of nature, because you are a tall man, as you said to me when you were on my show, a man this tall should not be running. And so you have ignored all of the advice and continued to run and inspire, as has Mr. Levy Odden. Lee, of course, I have something special prepared for you. First of all, welcome back.
It's great to be here. Great to see your smiling, bearded face again.
You know exactly what is coming. You know that this is coming. What the hell are you doing? You're running in, is this minus 18 Celsius or Fahrenheit, first of all?
It's 18 Fahrenheit.
You are running in these ridiculous temperatures, and I look forward to seeing what part of your body has been frozen this particular week. What can we look forward to?
We can look forward to? I think there's a lot. What we can look forward to, cold, exercise, surviving.
Okay, well, I'm all about survival of the fittest, right? It is International Darwin Day. Well, now it's time to bring on our next guest, and she's definitely worried now because, first of all, she is my sister. She is guest number one on Corona TV. You guys wouldn't even be here if not for her telling me this incredible story of how she was looking to close. She had to close her studio doors because of COVID. She had COVID, but she put all of her cycles into a U-Haul, dropped them off at customers' homes, pivoted her whole business. And I said to her, Sharon, come on Corona TV and answer the door. And welcome back, Sharon.
Thank you, Joe. It's really good to be back. I can't believe it's nearly a year since I was last on your show. Where are you finding these pictures? Instagram.
There's this new thing called social medias, which I've been quite busy on.
What is that?
Well,
it's really good to be back on the show, and I just can't believe a year has gone by, and that's why one of the things I was going to talk about is some of the things that I've learned. But I'm also really honored to be with such an athletic group of people. More to come on that.
I mean, clearly, when you talk about athleticism, you must be talking about Justin Levy. Justin Levy, the man. I mean, Justin, your story is amazing. Let's just talk about your shirt, shall we? It seems to crinkle every now and go ruck. It's like Mad Magazine. Remember the Mad Magazine days when you fold in? Just watch the shirt carefully. First of all, Justin, your story is amazing. From living through multiple seizures to having brain surgery to ultimately becoming a Spartan Warrior. You continue to inspire me. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
And how have you been, by the way? Any Spartan races we should be aware of?
No, I don't know if and when I'll go back to them. And it's just because 2 years ago, I fractured my patella in 4 places. And so after, rebuilding my shoulder 6 years ago and then fracturing my patella 2 years ago, my shoulders can handle a lot of the issues after, I have enough metal in them now. But the patella is a little hard with dealing with all the uphills that Spartan races force you into.
Well, let me recommend Full Contact Chess. It's apparently quite awesome. And last but not least, another warrior of note, an Iron Man, I should say, the one and only Mr. Peter Shankman. Peter, it is always a pleasure to see you, my friend. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me back. It's always good to be here.
You and I are sporting the link tree. I love it. I love it. Link tree is amazing, by the way.
It is. I copy you. Whatever you do, I just assume it's good.
And it's funny because I copy you, so it works well.
Nice little feedback loop.
Well, we're gonna go into our sessions very, very soon, starting with Dave and followed by who's next? Lee, and then Sharon as I organize us, and then Justin, and finally Peter. But first, I just wanted to ask you guys a quick question. We'll go around the virtual room very, very quickly, which is, this is health themed and physical health and wellness themed. What is the biggest physical achievement you've ever accomplished in your life? The single biggest physical achievement? Dave?
Last year during the pandemic, they canceled my first 100-mile race that was supposed to happen in March in the Outer Banks. And so I did 25-mile laps in my neighborhood and ran my first 100-mile race. Easily the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. Took me 30 hours, including a 4-hour nap. And then I did another one a month later. But that first one was the hardest thing I've ever done. Yeah, easily.
Incredible.
Why did you have to ask him first?
I remember, by the way, listening to the audio of Born to Run while I was running. And the very first line, I think, is human beings were not engineered or made to run. And then all the incidents of injuries. Lee, what about you?
Wow, that's incredible, Dave. It takes me 3 weeks to run 100 miles. So for me, I guess I would say it would be transforming myself from a 270-pound chair potato to a much leaner, more active version of myself. I like to call Lee 2.0. I lost 65 pounds and went through a journey to sort of start to optimize myself. And so I've been exploring lots of different forms of exercise. Running is really where I've landed. So doing about 40 miles a week or so, rain or shine or cold or warm, whatever.
And if you really want to feel good about Lee and bad about yourself, I encourage you to follow him on Instagram. I think my real man crush is on Lee as opposed to Charles Darwin. Sharon, what about you?
So, I mean, I'm following on after Lee, but I am also a what I call an FFP, is a former fat person. I don't want to be fattest here, but I was definitely a couch potato, definitely very, very unhealthy in every possible way. And now I'm into fitness, I'm into clean eating, but for me to have not only done that and to become a spinning instructor, I still have to pinch myself when I'm in front of a room. And I've previously also done keynote speaking and presenting to realize that I've, now sitting on the other side and I'm motivating the other people and I'm encouraging them. That's, my greatest achievement.
I've done one of her spinning classes, and I literally was injured. I think I injured myself afterwards because it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Justin, how about you?
Oh, I think that, I've always been involved in fitness immediately following my first 2 seizures. I had lost around 50 to 60 pounds of just body weight, muscle, overall body weight in like 6 weeks. So much so that my skin was wrapped around my scapula. And so that was 2014, 2015. So, 2 years later, I had competed in some other races and whatnot, but I completed the Spartan World Championships. And that was held at Squaw Valley, so maximum elevation of 10,000 feet. And it was 18 miles, around 35 obstacles. And because it was the World Championship, everything was twice as high or twice as long. So, instead of a 10-foot A-frame to climb, it was a 25-foot A-frame to climb. And It included a 45-degree swim, water a pond that was 45 degrees, and they had to have divers in the water, because when your body goes from as hot as it is running, in that, your core temperature heats up, and then you jump into 45-degree water, people are literally seizing. All their muscles just seize. So that took about 8.5 hours to complete, and so that was probably
amazing.
One of the biggest achievements.
Amazing. By the way, Bob Farnham did one push-up yesterday, so everything is relative. How about you, Mr. Peter Shankman?
Well, I don't know how to compete with that. Most of my life, I grew up as a kid and young adult. I would run by pressing X on a joystick. In college, I ran to the store for cigarettes. It wasn't until my late 20s that I had an employee working for me who was a runner, and she said, "Let's go for a run." And I went, "I don't do that." And she went, "No, come on, you'll lose weight and you'll have a better chance of getting laid." Literally, her words to me. And I said, "Okay, I'll do this." And I went. I ran about maybe half a mile and nearly dropped dead, but got high as a kite from that. And that was my first real experience with dopamine, which then led to years later doing a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon, a marathon. Each time getting a little more high from that exercise, and then finally attempted the ultimate. And in 2010, about 11 years ago, completed my first Ironman. And I know that it's confusing to everyone watching, because you're looking at me and say, Peter, no, you've watched the movie Ironman while sitting on your ass eating popcorn. But no, I did Ironman Cozumel, which is a 2.4-mile swim, 112-mile bike ride, and then a full 26.2-mile marathon, all within 17 hours. I attempted another one in 2014 in Louisville. The temperature at the start of the race was 102 degrees. I woke up at mile 13, and this was all told to me at mile 13 of the marathon. So I'd gotten through everything already. And at the marathon, halfway through the marathon, I stopped for water, and they asked me my name, and I knew it, and I said it. And they said, "How you feeling?" I said, "Feeling great." They said, "Where are you right now?" I said, "I'm in New York City," which is a problem because I was in Louisville, and I woke up in an ambulance with an IV in each arm. So not one to learn from my mistakes. I am currently training for the Kona World Championships, where it all began. So the Kona Ironman it was supposed to be this past October. So it is this October of 21 in Kona, Hawaii. Another full Ironman, after which I will hang up my Ironman spurs. But I'm doing that one for team and training to raise money against leukemia and lymphoma. So I am not very smart. You don't look at me and think Ironman, but I'm one of those people that I don't finish with the Kenyans. I finish with guys named Ken.
Ken with the bunions. I will answer the question very quickly as well. Growing up, I too was overweight. In my school, they used to do a 1 kilometer run that everyone had to do at the end of our athletic, track meet. I used to hide in the toilet. I would have an asthma attack. And for me, there's no question, running my first New York marathon, which was the New York Marathon, I ended up running 2. I don't know if I'll ever run another one, but just the ability to run 26.2 miles was still, one of the biggest achievements of my entire life, physical or otherwise. So thank you guys for sharing. Anything is possible. I am going to hand over to Dave Rendall to begin his 5-minute slot. But I want to say one thing before we do that, which is on my birthday, on my 50th, on December 24th, I said to my kids and I said to my wife, I want one thing for my birthday, which is I want us to sit down and watch the interview with Dave on CoronaTV, because that's how much I was inspired about this whole idea of discover uniqueness by exploiting weakness. It really, really connected with me at the deepest level. So Dave, your 5 minutes starts now.
Well, I think to tie into that, that's what I want to talk about. My whole life, I was in trouble for being hyperactive, for not being able to sit still. And now people say, wow, it's so amazing that you run 100 miles. It's so amazing that you do Ironmans. It's so amazing that you do these long virtual races. So I guess that's maybe the conversation that I want to kick off today is it possible maybe that exercise and fitness doesn't have to hurt, doesn't have to be something we don't want to do, can actually be a part of who we are. And also related to that then we don't need to compare ourselves to other people and what they've done, because there's always someone better. There's always someone who's gone farther. There's always someone who's done more, but they have gifts you don't have, and you have gifts they don't have. And so I think what I always try to encourage people to do when it comes to fitness is find something you want to do. I had a student in a class one time, and one of her goals for that year was she wanted to start running, and she was very clear, I hate running. And earlier in class, though, she talked about how she loves to do this kind of Chicago-style tap dancing or something. And I was like, wait a second, you hate running, but you think you should force yourself to run in order to be fit. You love dancing, and that requires you to be fit, and yet that's not going to be the path you choose, right? So I think we've all been sold this lie of no pain, no gain, get out of your comfort zone, embrace the suck. When I actually think my experience with a lot of those people is what would suck for them and what would be out of their comfort zone would be to sit around and do nothing all the time, would be when they're injured and they can't do those hardcore things, when they can't go out in the cold, when they can't run farther, when they can't do difficult things. That would actually be painful to them. And so that's part of what I want to hear other people's feedback on today is, do you have a thing that you enjoy as it relates to fitness? Is it possible that it doesn't have to hurt? It doesn't have to be miserable. It doesn't have to be painful. And it can really tap into who we are. And then because of that, too, we can also be comfortable with the thing we've chosen. I won't do Spartan races because I can't do a single pull-up, right? I have the body of a JV girls basketball player. I'm not going to, I literally did train 6 months once to do a single pull-up, and I nailed it. And in my defense, I'm 6'6". I got a long way to go. That's not my thing, right? That's not my thing. And so I can be comfortable with what my thing is and let other people do their thing without feeling like I'm worse. Like Peter said, he finished with guys named Ken. I finished Ironman Mont Tremblant 2,000th out of 2,200 people, right? I finished 2,000th out of 2,200 people, and I couldn't have been happier. Because my only goal was to finish. I had a stress fracture in my foot the year before. I walked the entire marathon. I had to constantly calculate kilometers in my head because I was in Canada and my watch had shut off, and I had to figure out how many kilometers I needed to walk at a certain speed in order to finish in time. It was a constant mental battle of remembering what a 5K was and therefore what 3.1 miles is, and then how that works related to time. And do they even calculate time the same way? Because I'm in Quebec, so it's even and so it was all just a big nightmare. But I didn't care that I'd finished almost last. In fact, I hugged Mike Riley at the end because I'd never been happier, because the year before I had to sit there with my broken foot that I broke the day before the race and watch everybody else finish. So my thing is, find your own goals, find something you like. Don't compare yourself to other people, and you don't have to get out of your comfort zone. When I'm running, I'm in my comfort zone. When I'm riding my bike, I'm in my comfort zone. When I'm active, I'm in my comfort zone. That's what I love to do. Don't compare yourself to me. And I'm not comparing myself to you either, because, Iron Cowboy is about to do 100 marathon or 100 Ironmans in 100 days, starting March 1st. We all are terrible if you compare yourself to the wrong person, and we're all amazing if you compare yourself to the right person.
I heard from George Tannenbaum this week, and we'll also show those CoronaBytes later. But as he said, my good is someone. He said, my good is someone's great, and it's as simple as that. Which is, you think you're rich, someone's richer. You think you're poor, someone's poorer. You think you're good, someone's better. You think you're bad, someone's worse. It's just a very simple way to look in the mirror, and the only reference should be self-referential in terms of how we live our lives. Anyone else want to jump in? Otherwise, we'll keep going. I love that. What a great way to kick us off. I'm motivated already.
I love that idea of finding your own, situation and focus. It's kind of like so many people have had to deal with the new normal based on the pandemic and the way life is now. And I think people can create their own new normal in terms of fitness and health and what they want to do. You know what I mean? What's the new normal for them, making that transition from whatever state they're dissatisfied with to something that is more active, more vibrant, more satisfying.
I'll wait for my turn, but I will add to that it doesn't mean you have to do it every single day. You're going to have days where you sleep late, where you oversleep, where you miss the workout, where the workout's for shit, and that's okay. That means you're human. There are about 6 billion of us, so it's a pretty cool club. Don't let it become all or nothing. And I am living proof that that's not a good thing. So I'll tell that when it's my turn.
Well, that's
I love how Dave also really brings the topic to a point of what you experience in life is purely a production of your thinking and your perception. And so you can say, oh, I only finished 2000th, but in fact you completed an Ironman, which is incredible. And that goes back to how important our mental health is and the connection between our fitness and our mental health, and how 100%. Interlinked our mental state is. And, for me, I never used to do anything, and I started with running, and I read an article on the psychology of running that just said that actually everybody finds it uncomfortable, which was a revelation for me. I thought the fit people found it easy.
On Monday, I had Karen Freberg in or on Corona TV. She actually wrote the textbook of the course that I'm teaching at WVU, Social Media Strategy. And this CoronaByte is not about about physical limitations, but maybe mental or intellectual limitations. This was the highlight. What are a couple of the things that you would impart on your students? They're coming into the workforce at a pretty junior level.
I love the Matrix movie because I love the scene where there's this little girl that says, yeah, there's no spoon. And I do feel there are artificial barriers, like students, professionals put up saying, well, we can't do this. And my answer back is like, well, why not? Where's it written out? And they're like, oh, well, there's rules against that. And I'm like, well, show me. And there's a lot of things that we kind of limit ourselves from doing because I think that there's a rule saying we can't do it. I have designed my classes so that it is very much real world focused. Here's what social media is really like. And I do that, Joseph, just so they also have experience to get a seat at the table to pitch these ideas to clients.
Karen actually was, when she was in school and college, a national shot put champion as well. So keeping the theme going. All right, Lee, you're up next. Take it away, my friend.
Sure. So I think a lot of people have felt because of the pandemic that they've got a whole new set of challenges in front of them. Like, obviously with gyms closing, people don't have the equipment. They don't have the social networks that they previously relied on, to live out a healthy lifestyle. And, there's a lot of other stresses that people are experiencing that have just manifested from a health standpoint. So, I can kind of empathize with a lot of this, although my own journey started before the pandemic. But I feel like being able to maintain not only the weight loss, but also continued elevation in terms of fitness and commitment is something that has taught me some lessons. And I think it's something that a lot of other people might be interested in. And I love what Dave said and also Peter mentioned, these are different for different people, right? You've got to find your own thing. And I just want to share a couple of lessons that I've learned that might be helpful to others in this journey. One of the things, I guess, first things I wanted to share is that you have to decide. Now, you have to find your motivation, I guess. It's a bit cliche, but in my case, my decision was made for me because I was suffering something called trigeminal neuralgia, which is also called suicide disease, since 50% of people who are diagnosed ultimately commit suicide. Has something to do with a medication that inspires suicidal thoughts, I guess. I declined to take the medication. It's pain that manifests up here. It's like getting tasered in the face or being on fire, stabbed with a knife. It could last from 15 seconds to 30 minutes to a couple of hours. It incapacitated me. I thought I would never be able to work again. And in the course of working through pain management with doctors, one of the suggestions or observations was, Lee, you're awfully fat. Maybe you should start trying to lose some weight. And so because literally eating was painful, I had to stop eating so much. I just ate just enough so that I had food in my stomach so I could take the medication. And that shrunk my stomach. And that literally was the start of my weight loss journey. So that commitment was made by me because I would do anything to avoid that pain. But I'm sure there are aspirational goals people might have. They want to, they want to fit in clothing that's different. They want to feel different. They want to live life to the fullest, and they're not doing that right now. So you've got to make a decision, make a commitment. I think you've got to find your groove. In my case, I started doing 5 minutes at a time on an old Nordic Track ski machine. And I built that up to 45 minutes, 60 minutes. But then I moved on to running. I started doing free weights, body weight exercises. I tried a lot of different things. And ultimately, I found that running was my groove. So I think you've got to give yourself the time to figure out what your fitness groove is, what your exercise groove is, because it's not going to be the same thing for everyone. Another big lesson for me was, of course, goals. I didn't really start out with any goals other than just completing tasks on a daily basis. And I think daily goals are good. Let's just get up off your ass and do something is pretty much my goal every day, motivated in part by the circles on my Apple Watch. But I also do set weekly goals. This year I set a goal to run 2,000 miles. And that translates to a certain number of miles, 166 miles or so per month, 40 miles a week. And that's something that's really motivated me. It's always on my mind. I want to make that goal. If I'm behind, it's okay. I'll make it up. But it is a goal. And the other part of that is the data that will inform your progress. The Strava app was recommended to me by Peter a long time ago, and I didn't do anything with that advice until recently. And now, but he still influenced me, and so did some other folks and part of a group that we're in. And that data has been really, really helpful. I found out that, first when I used a Fitbit and I was counting my steps, I was really surprised by how much that feedback loop was motivating me to get up off my ass, off the couch, and go do something. And today, as I'm being more active, I do find an app like Strava, which is great for running or any other cardio type of exercise, is a great feedback mechanism to give me the data to help me understand whether I'm achieving my goals or not. Another thing is you don't need to do it alone. I know, again, a lot of people who are going to a gym, they had that social connection with other people that they would work out with. And now maybe that's not there for them. In my case, I never did work out in a gym. I've always worked out by myself, but I did make it social by connecting with other people. I've been inspired by Justin for years. His story's amazing. I've been inspired by Peter and many other people. And, connecting with them, getting advice from people about running, about exercise has been really, really important. But continuing to share progress and getting feedback from those folks has also been incredibly motivating. Ultimately, I decided to create a group on Facebook called Marketing Fitness, which has nothing to do with marketing at all. It's all about supporting each other in our various journeys to better health and wellness and better fitness. And, Joseph is obviously in that group, and Peter's in that group, and Justin is in that group. I invite anyone else who's interested to join that group. Just look for Marketing Fitness and mention this show if you do want to join, because it is invite only.
For 10% off, by the way.
What's that?
For 10% off. Mention code
10%.
CoronaTV for 10% off.
So make it social. Make it social. I think one thing in terms of pushing yourself, as you start out, maybe it's just getting something done. But as you get more strength, as more endurance, I think I adopted an attitude of I can always do one more. I can always do one more minute or one more step or one more rep. Just one. I don't have to do 10 more. I don't have to do 50 more. Just one more once in a while to really push myself to be able to do maybe 2 pull-ups. Dave, so I empathize with your situation. Got those long arms. And ultimately, I think the biggest lesson I learned is the only way for me to fail is to quit. You're going to get off track. I get off track all the time. My last half marathon, I didn't run for 4 days afterwards. I thought, what's going on? So what? I started, did a little 5K and then did a 10K, blah, blah, blah. And I got back on track eventually. Right now, I've not been lifting free weights as much as I would like to, because running 40 miles a week does take more time. So what? I'll get back on track. So the only way you can fail is if you quit. And I think that kind of commitment is important if you want to make long-lasting change. But you've also got to be flexible enough with yourself to know that things are going to ebb and flow a little bit. And you can ultimately stay the course and get after what it is that you're trying to achieve. So,
Angus Nelson says, previous guest on the show, he said, and I never knew that about your condition. He said, things don't happen to you, they happen for you. So thank you for sharing, Lee. And just before we go to Sharon, on Tuesday, Michael Farmer, who wrote Madison Avenue Manslaughter, was on the show. And we actually were talking about the advertising industry and what's ailing it. And this CoronaByte actually talks about maybe going back in time to the Mad Men days. And you'll see why we were referring to that. What if we went back to 15% commission? What if we went back to the Mad Men days with, of course, the exception of the womanizing?
It's a terrific idea, and I'll tell you why. Because the first thing they'd have to think about is what should be that media mix? And then what is the specific media and creative scope of work that fills those media channels and delivers improved performance? Wow, there isn't an agency in the world that even does that today. They take the spend that's given to them by the client. They take the media mix that's given to them by the client. And they take the creative scope that's given to them by the client. And then they execute against a schedule. The business has completely changed. It used to be a French restaurant run by chefs. And now it's a fast food operation that just cranks out burgers.
An even interesting time, because do you take what is given to you, or do you kind of make the most of what you have? Are you a French bistro or a fast food outlet? Well, Sharon, I hope you're not hungry now after the French bistro versus fast food outlet. Your 5 minutes begins now.
Okay, great. Thank you, Joe. So what I wanted to talk about today was some of the lessons that I've learned through lockdown. And I have a boutique spinning studio, and we've had to close 3 times. In fact, we're currently closed, and we pivoted, we rented the bikes out, and we took the business online. And it's very interesting what Lee spoke about, and Dave, because the first thing I wanted to talk about was that it's really not about physical or mental. It's actually physy-mental, which is everything is interconnected. And I realized that's for all of us. It's not just for the people who spin with us. It's for everybody who's exercising. It's the mental side that gets you to exercise in the first place. And then there's the endorphins and the dopamine that you get afterwards. And that has sustained so many people through lockdown. It's sustained me. It's given me a purpose and a routine to always know when I'm exercising. The second thing that I did want to mention was, thank you, Sylvie, was that it's really about community and not a commodity. So it's not about, we always say it's not about the pedals, it's about the people. And what you can see in that little slide is that about 10 days ago, we were surprised with our 5-year anniversary that all our members got together and did this amazing video thanking us and sending good wishes. And it meant absolutely the world to us to realize that we built those connections with our members, but they've built those connections with one another. So while anybody can go, and I'll cover that later, sign up to Peloton, it's the immediate people and the relationships around that has been the spin-off, pardon the pun, from what we've done online. And I can tell you that there are WhatsApp groups that are active constantly. Literally, the one group had 218 messages this morning. And you can see in the other screenshots I put in there, there's constant banter. I don't know if that's just a British word, but the banter goes on throughout the class. And I just put some screenshots there of people egging each other on and teasing each other and being friendly. And there's so much isolation being stuck at home in lockdown. And exercise in itself is hard enough doing it on your own. That social element is absolutely everything. And that's what sustained my little business. And that leads me on to the next point, which is about loyalty. That it's just blown me away how loyal people have been. And and I put in there also lack of loyalty, that there is a small percentage, I would say less than 5%, who literally found an alternative and forgot about us, which was also quite a tough lesson to learn, that we give everything to people and that for them, it's really just a spin class. I mean, we're not saving lives here. So, it's been a hard lesson to learn, but the good has been so amazing and it really overshadows some of the bad, but there has been some bad. And I suppose that brings me on to the next one, which is what I said, David versus Goliath. And that is, without a doubt, Peloton have, swept the floor here. We have a very much a AB income demographic, and every single member, no matter how much they love us, has gotten a Peloton. Their offer was 3 months free trial. I mean, we just couldn't compete. And we didn't try. And we got to a point when we considered shutting. And that's when we realized that the power of community is really more important, because what started to happen was our members were coming back saying, we don't actually like the Peloton classes. They don't compare to what we were used to in your studio. So now they sit on their Peloton bikes and they subscribe to our service. So it's actually expanded our audience further than we thought. So that's also, a complete shift in thinking. And based on that, we've also got an entire family spinning, and we have a beginner's class and a teen class. So from just having one member, we've also, expanded to whole families. And that's also very valuable when we had to reopen the studio, because I will say everyone was saying to us, no one's going to come back. Everyone's staying at home. They're terrified of getting the virus. You may as well shut. And I did a little survey to ask people what they wanted. And in fact, 74% said that they would come back. So we reopened in July last year, and everyone came back. And it was a beautiful, beautiful thing to see. It was very tragic that we had 50% capacity in the bikes, but then we had those people online. So technically, whereas in our physical studio, we could only fit 24 bikes, we then had 40, 50 people in the class because some of them were online. So once again, like something that was tragic actually turned out to be beautiful, which is the whole psychological journey that I've gone through in lockdown, which is something seems so horrific, but actually, if you change your thinking about it, it can be something amazing. You can have gratitude for what you've gained and what you've learned. I mean, obviously there's been terrible financial loss and loss of life, but the only way to stay positive is to continually look what you do have. And that's the same that you guys were talking about with exercise. Is sometimes I have really bad days when I'm on the bike and there's nothing in me and I have no energy. In fact, this week I even got off the bike after 20 minutes. But I have to say to myself, well, that's 20 minutes more than had I not even gotten on the bike. And actually, overall, it's been a good week. So you constantly need to be working on your mindset to not only get fit, but to stay fit. And that's important also when you're motivating others, because they are simply earlier on in their journey that they haven't begun to learn those mental tools that we've all learned that help us pick ourselves up when we're down. And then I suppose the last point, I don't know how I am for time, is
you're about 6 minutes over your 1 minute, but you're doing great.
I'll be quick.
I'm gonna text mommy after this and tell her that you did not listen to the damn brief. But then again, no one has, but please continue.
Yes, and this is the one show I think she's not watching, but it's a good thing it's recorded. So the last thing I wanted to say was just the incredible power of the story. And our story is obviously starting this business in 10 days from a pop-up and then shutting the business down with 3 days, renting the bikes out, going online, but also my beloved business partner who's become like a sister to me has got stage 4 cancer. And, she has also been so inspirational in that she's tried to come back and sit on the bike whenever she could. And that story, what happened, this relates to you, Joe, is Joseph interviewed me and there was some interest. And I thought, well, if there's interest in the US, what about the UK? And then the Daily Mail picked up our story. And then we got into ITV News, which is national news at 6 p.m. And from there, the Times newspaper wrote about us. So our story has been everywhere. So just to conclude on Dave's point, that you shouldn't compare yourselves to others. I often say, well, we've only got maybe 100 subscribers or 60 members or 24 bikes, but actually we've still achieved so much compared to, as if we'd done nothing at all. So we have to just be proud of that and pleased with that.
Well, that's all the time we have for this episode of Corona TV. Justin and Pete, no, kidding. Sharon, I love the story. It's a real story, and I think we can all relate. I have to tell you that the next CoronaByte is from George Tannenbaum. An amazing story. He was a copywriter at Ogilvy, one of the best in the business. He was kicked to the curb. He was let go in his early 60s, and he had to think about how to reinvent himself. This was the CoronaByte, and I think it speaks to resilience and the ability to keep moving forward.
I had my moments of tears and fear, and I said, how am I going to get a job? And I said to myself, well, this takes a little soul searching. And the way you're going to get a job, because there's no shortage of 56-year-old ex-copywriters or 46-year-olds or 66-year-olds, is how do you distinguish yourself? You say, well, what do I do better than anyone else in the world? And the only thing you can really answer that with is, well, I'm better at being me than anyone else in the world. And me is kind of loquacious, intelligent, hardworking, funny, irreverent, whatever. Hardworking being the main thing. And then I have the ability to take a shitload of information and boil it down pretty quickly.
I really love that. I'm better at being me than anyone else in the world. It's almost uncanny how it seems to be on point with everyone's amazing contributions today. Justin, you're up next. Take it away, my friend.
Yeah. And I think a few things are initial comments on things that others were talking about. I wrote all over my notebook as people were talking. I think what Lee was talking about, the whole idea of goals, that's what I set for myself. Over the period of time, I've never set goals or set a goal of losing weight, for example. I do understand that some people that are obese or have diabetes or things of that nature, need to do what they need to do. Their doctors recommend that they have to lose X amount of weight to fix a problem that's, potentially going to kill them or something of that nature. But setting daily goals for yourself, weekly, monthly, yearly goals, will have those intended, consequences for you if you're focusing on, Lee saying, one more rep. I join a lot of different challenges that I also break down into averages per day. So right now, one of my challenges, because I signed up for too many so far this year, is 2,000 8-count bodybuilders between this month and the end of next month. So that comes out to be an average of 34 per day. And there's days, earlier this week I didn't do any. So that meant that I had to add, an additional X number per day to catch up. But if I did 40 today, I looked at it as, okay, I chopped 6 off of that 35 I had to make up. I wasn't going to try to do 68 or 70 in the day to get a couple more in the bank for the next time I don't, right? So that's just on top of 4 or 5 challenges I've been stupid enough to sign up for over the past few weeks. But, I do think having goals, be they reps or weight or what have you, and not thinking that you work out today and tomorrow you have to hit that goal. it's over a longer period of time. Again, it might be a week, it might be a month, it might be by year end that you want to be able to achieve that mile run or that 5K or whatever. Definitely not 100 miles like Dave, but you know, because we are not all freaks. But, you know, and listen, I can't do a full pull-up because of all the hardware I have in my shoulders. I can't, having to have my my humerus rebuilt in both shoulders, having to have my rotator cuffs and the use of donor bone. You know, I have bolts and wire and screws in both shoulders. My body weight can't, or my shoulders can't take that amount of dead weight on them, but I can do burpees. Though very painful, I can do burpees. So for example, when you do a Spartan race, if you fail an exercise, fail an obstacle, you do burpees. That's the kind of penalty. So even though they might take me 5 or 10 minutes to do, whereas rope climb can take someone 30 seconds to do, I can go stand off at the side and do something I know I can do. So, I think that those are some of the kind of key learnings. Now, something that Dave said that I in a way go against is, Dave said about embracing the suck. And I think that I take it a bit different. It's one of the main, so there's been two things, Spartan really talks about, you'll know at the finish line. And Go really talks about embracing the suck. So on the Spartan side is the idea of, I got a friend of mine involved when I was working at a company, former company, and we were working together when I had hurt my shoulders and everything happened to me. And his viewpoint was, I'm 51 years old, 52. He was very much in shape. But if this guy can do, a Spartan race after, 11 months post-surgery, and I had 5 months after having my shoulders rebuilt, I was swimming in open water and just a bunch of other stuff, I can complete it, right? I should be able to go with him and go do this. And, one of those things was he joined, and what I didn't know was throughout the race, going to the finish line, he was cursing me the entire time in his head. I can't finish this. I can't get through this. And at the end, when he got his medal, he understood what Spartan's tagline was as, you'll know at the finish line, because he became addicted to it. He got other friends that I wasn't friends with involved. He got people from his church and, other groups involved. And then embracing the suck is really something Go related. And, I have a patch on one of my rucks downstairs with that kind of phrase on it. And the idea behind that is I don't enjoy running or spinning or anything else that everyone else on this show has embraced. And I don't like it. I can't do it. I can't spin because of my knee, things of that nature. But I love to rock. I can throw 45 pounds on my back and go for 5.
I kind of feel like you should just leave it at that. Seriously, that might be the comment of the entire show.
So
I love to what was that again?
Rock with an R. Dave,
got it. Justin, listen, I could listen to you for the rest of my life. But Peter Shankman is getting antsy. I can see him when he gets still. That's when you have to fear the Shankman. But in all seriousness, I love your story. I continue to love how it unfolds, and I just want to emphasize one point, and then we'll move into the final CoronaByte, which is when you actually did that Spartan, rather than, even though you physically were unable to undertake some of these activities, you took the penalty, you took the punishment, you did those burpees, or whatever the case was. And I just find that to be beyond courageous, to say, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this right. I'm not going to, I don't want a handout. I don't want a leg up. I'm just going to do this the way it was meant to, as best as I can, with the gifts that I've been given, with the hardships that I've been given. It's very inspirational. And you have heart, and heart is the subject of the final CoronaByte. Dave Burkus was on the show talking about his new book, Leading from Anywhere. And I said to him, because we're talking about remote teams, I said, how does a team show heart on a Zoom? How does a team show heart on a Zoom?
When we look at the cultures of virtual teams, ones that succeed compared to the other, they really have two things in common in the research. And these are not my terms. These come from Martine Haas and Mark Mortensen, two brilliant professors and researchers that studied BC, before Corona, studied virtual teams, cross-functional teams in a global company. And they found that the teams that showed heart, in this case, or the teams that really succeeded in a virtual environment, had two things in common, what they called shared understanding and shared identity. And I think of these as the 2020 problem and the 2021 problem. Shared understanding means, do I understand the knowledge, skills, abilities of the team? Do I understand the context that they're working in? Shared identity, it's the level to which, even though I'm working alone, I feel like I'm part of a team. I would think that would be how I would define heart. Did we take the time to develop shared understanding and shared identity?
The movement from managing teams of one to one team. I thought that was a really great insight. Mr. Peter Shankman, you get to bring us home, my friend. Your 15 to 55 minutes starts now.
Well, it'll be closer to 6 because I actually have a live interview that I have to do at 1:05 on TV. So I was looking at the clock the whole time. Look, here's my thing. And I know who I am, right? And I know what I'm made of, and I know how I look, and I know where my base weight is, right? I have never been, you've never called me thin. My favorite story of all time is when I was doing Cozumel. It was like 5 a.m. I was sitting on the dock of the bay, literally on the dock of the bay of Cozumel, waiting, just praying that I don't die, right? And sport beans, they made by Jelly Belly, they had sport beans, they're like Gatorade in a jelly bean. They found, I was running Harrow at the time, and they found out I was doing the Ironman. They sent me a Sport Beans shirt, and I'm wearing it. It's my jersey, my Sport Beans bike jersey, and I'm wearing it. It has jelly beans all over it. And some guy comes up to me, and goes, "I see you too, a sponsored athlete." And it's this German guy, and I'm like, "Yeah, they gave me a shirt, whatever." And I was like, just trying to focus on the water and whatever. He's like, "Are you hoping to place?" I'm like, "Sir." He was about a quarter of my weight. And I'm like, "Sir, I can see by your jersey, you're sponsored by a bike called Cervelo, which is arguably one of the fastest triathlon bikes in the world. Sir, if you look at my jersey, you'll see that I'm sponsored by fucking Candy. And no, I'm not." And, he goes, "What is your time goal?" I'm like, "The same day. I just need you to go over there." And it was just sort of this wake-up call that people do different things. And the irony of that is that when I got home, I created a video, which if you've done an Ironman, if you've done Montreal, if you've done the Ironman, you've seen this video. It's called "I'm Training for an Ironman." And it's two people talking to each other. And it's the guy saying, "Hey," the girl saying, "Hey, do you want to go get some dinner?" And the guy says, "I can't. I have to go home and get up at 4. So I'm going to sleep and get up at 4 a.m. Why 4 a.m.? I'm training for an Ironman. What the hell's wrong with you?" And I made that based on a relationship I had with a girl at the time that I was dating, a woman I was dating at the time. We're all different people. And what I've learned is this. I've learned that I do certain things for certain reasons. And a lot of people think I'm a freak because of it. And I don't really give a shit. I am up on any given day at around 3:45, 4 a.m. to get on my bike or to go outside for a run or to get on my treadmill or to swim or whatever. Why? Because I have massive ADHD. And when you exercise, ADHD creates when you exercise creates dopamine, serotonin, and adrenaline. And those are the three chemicals that your brain, when you're ADHD, makes 25 to 45% less of. And we've had over 200 guests on the Faster Than Normal podcast, including Ironman triathlons, including Ironman winners, including celebrities, including Tony Robbins, everyone who has all said that on days they don't exercise, they don't get those chemicals, they're not as good. I know what works for me. That works for me. And so people's like, "Oh my God, what time do you go to bed?" I'm like, "Well, my daughter goes down around 8. I'm a single dad. She goes to bed around 8 o'clock. I'm asleep by 8:30. And they go, 8:30, and you're up at 3:45. So are you a farmer?" I've stopped caring. right? In between, you have two speeds. I have namaste and I'll cut a bitch, and there's no middle ground. There's no middle ground. So I want to have a good day. If I want to be the best dad I can be to my 7-year-old, if I want to be the best consultant I can be to my clients, if I want to be on stage and talk the best way I can, I have to exercise. And if that means I have to get up early to do it because I want to do it before my daughter wakes up so I can be present for her, I'm getting up at 3:45. And so Peloton, in that regard, I've had my bike since 2016. It has been a game changer for me, right? I have a first generation Peloton. I've been using that thing religiously. I bought the treadmill in 2017 or 18, and it is both of them have changed my life because on the days I have her, I can't go out and run, I can't go out and bike, and so I'm using that thing for my reasons, right? I am never going to be, I joke that in New York City you can now get coronavirus if you're obese. Well, I'm too fat to date Emily Ratajkowski, but I'm not fucking fat enough to get the vaccine, right? So welcome to my life. So I'm never going to finish an Ironman and win, but I'm going to finish it, right? And I'm going to finish Kona, and I'm going to survive it. And to me, that is worth it, because if I don't have a goal, I'm all or nothing. I quit drinking years ago because I didn't have one drink. I had 7, right? I order a pizza. I don't have one slice of pizza. I have the pizza. Leftover pizza is not a thing. And so it's the same thing with exercise. I know what works for me. I did 45 minutes this morning at an 80s ride, about, just under 500 output, right? Burned 700 calories, and I lifted for half an hour, hit my calorie goal on my watch before my daughter woke up. I was just happy, and she knows it. Daddy, you didn't get on the bike today, did you? I'm like, no, I slept in. Okay. You're not as happy. I'm like, well, fuck me, right? So what I've learned is that the day I stopped caring what other people thought about me in any capacity was the day I was free, right? And I am literally, I'm out there, I'm running, right? I don't wear a wetsuit anymore. I don't care how cold the water is. I did a half Ironman in Buffalo Springs, Texas, and there's video of me getting out and the wetsuit strippers trying to get the wetsuit off me. I look like you just dropped a manatee on a dirt road, right? I won't wear a wetsuit anymore, right? But I know what works for me and I know what doesn't. And I think that we are under this influence, and this is how I'll end it. We're under this influence of exercise that says, oh, you have to exercise and look just like everyone else. And I'm looking at Sharon. Sharon's hot as balls there. I'm never going to look like Sharon. Right? She's one of those fit instructors. I look at the fact that I'm never going to look like that. Right? But I know how it's sweat, and I know that it's and that's the shit I'm going to take with me at home. So that's what I look at exercise. Do what you do because it makes you feel good. Stop caring what other people think. There you go.
And this is why if you are looking to hire a keynote speaker as your closer, it should never be Peter Shankman. I mean, it should only be Peter Shankman. Peter, I know you have to run to a live interview.
I'll jump back in the after show after.
That was a mic drop moment, but I am going to ask you very quickly before you have to jump our Corona question, because I cannot wait to hear your quick answer. Your quick answer, because I know you have to go. What's the single best idea that you've ever come up with in your entire life?
I mean, logic would suggest that it was Harrow. Help a Reporter Out changed my entire life and changed everything that I am living today. So I would say that. But I also always wanted to I always wanted to create a triathlon team called Team Fat Ass, and it's like Menudo. You could only join it until you lost all the weight, then you had to go join another team.
So they just keep on coming. We'll see you in the after show.
Thanks for having me as always, guys.
That was awesome. Stan Phelps said Peter closed a high five conference years ago and killed it, and he continues to do that. Thank you, my friend. We are going to say goodbye to each one of you in the order that you came on, starting with Mr. David Rendall, who clearly is in the wrong business, my friend, because you should be a damn copywriter. You should be going after George Tannenbaum's business. Those were some pretty good one-liners from you. Your question is the same question. What is the single best idea that you've ever come up with in your entire life?
Easiest question to answer ever. It was the freak factor, that my weaknesses were strengths, that other people have weaknesses that are strengths, that the things we're trying to fix are exactly the things that we should be flaunting, that we need to be unapologetic about who we are, and that oftentimes the things that our parents, teachers, employers, and family members tell us are our worst qualities are actually our best qualities, and we should stop trying to fix them and turn up the volume on those things. Easily changed my life, has changed a lot of other lives as well, and transformed every single aspect of my life. So yeah, that's it. Best idea I ever had.
Changing lives as well has changed my life too, in terms of inspiring me, as you do every time I see you. Thank you so much, and we'll see you hopefully in the after show. Appreciate it. Next up, I think in order is Mr. Norse God himself, who will be running in minus 3,000 degree temperature. What is the single worst idea? No, I'm kidding. What is the single best idea you've ever come up with in your entire life?
You know, when I got into marketing, I had a big crisis in confidence and not a lot of self-confidence. So I spent too much time trying to be important, trying to be the smartest guy in the room. And the best idea I've ever had in terms of generating positivity and results in the world is when I stopped trying to be important, stopped trying to be influential myself, and focused most of my efforts on helping others to become influential, to shine a light on other people's talent, and to support other people. This has borne great fruit, and it really helped me adopt an everybody wins sort of worldview.
I appreciate you sharing that with us, and we'll see you in the after show as well. For those of you, I'll say goodbye to Lee for now, but for those of you that want to know the URL, just go to bit.ly/CoronaTV after show, bit.ly/CoronaTV after show, and you can join us, and hopefully Peter will be back with us. Next up is my sister, Sharon Jaffe. Sharon, what is the single best idea you've ever come up with in your entire life to date?
Well, I was going to say being your sister, but that's just way too corny.
Stop.
Really. Stop the friend.
You don't need to continue.
There you go. Massive points. I would say just figuring out that I could do what I loved, which is teaching and helping people, and keeping me sane, which is basically not being fat, and therefore copying this idea that I saw in New York of Soul Cycle when I came to visit you, Joe, and setting up this little boutique studio as a pop-up and realizing, you know, worst comes to worst, I fail. And then at least I've tried it. And now I've met people that I will know for the rest of my life. And I know that I've helped people and changed their lives. And, you know, I'll forever carry that with me.
And I think you could see from all the comments coming in from your community today, community, not commodity. There were a bunch of one-liners that we will take away with us forever. Community, not commodity was the only real one, because the other ones came from Justin Levy, which is I love to rock, and pretty much everything Peter Shankman said. So Sharon, you may see you not show. I know it's late in London, but thank you for coming in today, and thank you for being my first guest on the show with COVID, no less.
Well, thank you for having me, Joe.
You're welcome. And Justin, you are the last, but you are not the least. What is the single best idea you've ever come up with in your entire life?
I would say it wasn't really an idea that I meant to have or meant to keep, but that first night that I was in the hospital, the ER, the first night of my seizures, I had posted on Facebook a status update that simply said this wasn't how I envisioned my weekend ending, or something to that nature. It was a Sunday night, and that turned into 545 days and about 170,000 some odd words of updates every single day. And to see how that inspired people, inspired me, and and that's why I kept writing the updates every day. They weren't necessarily for me. Some of it was my sanity, but a lot of it was because of the feedback I would get publicly or privately from people. So,
yeah, I just went and quickly did something while you were talking, Justin, because in the CoronaByte, when you were on the show, you said something that really resonated with me, which is, what made you do that? What made you just decide to share or overshare on Facebook? And actually, this was your CoronaByte.
the heaviest weight that I could hold in my hand was my phone. Think about any drug, painkiller that's on the market, and I was on all of them. So there's some of the updates I don't remember, or I don't remember sections of them, of typing them, because some of them would take me all day, because, you know, I type part of it, have to take a nap, come back, type part of it, take a nap. I didn't have anything else to do. Even though at that point, I'd been involved in the industry for a long time and still to this day, I didn't think about the other side of it. I had no consideration for that at a time. I wasn't seeking to build a community, and I never missed a day. It built into this thing where people would reach out and think or check on if something was wrong because they hadn't seen an update.
Necessity is the mother of invention. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't have anything else to do. And so he ended up not only changing his life, but changing everyone else's life. Today was everything I would have hoped for and less. I'm just kidding, and more. But if you're still with us and you want to spend some time with us, come to our Zoom after show. Look, it wouldn't be Corona TV if it didn't end with the thumbs up or thumbs down from Chuck Norris. And I think you know what he's going to say.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
There you go.
Thank you for watching Corona TV with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. Corona TV is the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing. The after show on Zoom starts right now at bit.ly/Corona TV After Show. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show at coronatv.show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, text Corona TV to 66866 or visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.